Hi, and welcome Beyond the Racing Line, the Formula One podcast by fans, for fans. It's a day of sombre reflection. It's a day of enjoyment of Formula One and thankfulness for Formula One, because I fear the end is nigh for our man Dan, which this podcast probably started on. I've got with me Tristan Pocock in the middle of the day for once. We're both looking bright and sprightly. Welcome, Tristan.
Hello, mate.
How are you?
Good, thanks. How are you?
I'm pretty well, thank you. Enjoying the first week of holidays. How are you enjoying your first week?
Good. It's weird to be doing this in the middle of the afternoon.
It is, isn't it?
To be quite honest.
I quite like it.
Yeah.
It was. How did you enjoy the race weekend? Let's get into the race weekend.
Just the race weekend. How did I enjoy it? A bit sort of meh for me. Bit sort of meh.
Singapore gives us that a bit, doesn't it?
Did you know we've had 8 rounds without a safety car now?
Yeah, I was told that about 60 times on the feed.
Yeah. I don't know. It was just I love Singapore. Like, it is my favourite track, but it just
Still interesting.
It's still interesting, but it just, I don't know, it just failed to deliver this weekend.
Yeah,
And it
did.
felt like, I know it's the longest race of the calendar, lap time is one of the longest, etc., etc., but it just felt like the race just went forever.
And it was the quickest one for a long time.
I know, and it just, I found myself, I'm like, oh, geez, how are we going here? And we were like lap 25.
Yes.
Third way distance. And I was like, oh, God, is anything... I think it was just a lack of action for me, to be quite honest. And
the other thing was, like, usually in a race, I'm really good at being optimistic. This could happen.
Yeah.
And this is what we're going to watch out for. And so that is really my focus. And I can generally get through races with the understanding that if this team tries this, we're on here. Yeah. And I love that about Formula One. It could be one of my favourite things about Formula One is knowing that there's a strategy out there that might change these things.
Even the offset strategies.
So all the offset strategies were way out because of Lando's speed, which good on Lando. But
just even for a positional gain.
But for even positional changes, yeah, absolutely. Yep. The undercut was there, but it was like teams were very reluctant to make that happen.
Yep.
Even a safety car wasn't going to change the lead.
No.
At any point, because it sort of felt like, well, even if someone goes and gets fresher tyres, I'm not sure they're going to be faster. Or Lando's just going to have that opportunity to go and do the same thing as well. It would have to be in a really... So, yeah, it was an interesting race where there was no interest, if that absolute double negative there. But there were very few things to sort of really hone in on.
Yep.
For me, I found myself attached to Piastri, watching Piastri, see how far up the ranks he could get, but because the cars were...
Ferrari sort of wise. I was looking at them, and I'm like, what are we doing here?
Where are they? Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So it was a really... I don't know, it was a funny old race, that one, and and the knowledge that Dan is in some trouble in terms of long-term career.
Yeah.
And I think that was sort of just playing my mind, and while... I've actually feel like I've nearly come to accept it, as strange as that might sound. I was still like, I wanted to go out on top, and I liked the fastest lap thing at the end, but yeah, it was just a bit okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Give me a race ranking then.
I'm just going to go 5.
Yeah.
Like, I think 5 is your bare minimum. Like, it's just, we went racing, we got to watch it. It was, as I said, really the polar opposite to last week. I think we used all our credits last week, didn't we?
Yep.
All of them. We should have saved something.
Yep. I'll give it a 6 because...
Yep.
Oh, no, actually, I'll give it a 6.5.
Okay.
Because I still enjoyed sitting there watching.
Kind of, yeah.
So your 5's like, I could be doing something else.
Yeah.
For me. But a 6.5, I was still enjoying.
See, I felt like
being there watching.
I could have missed 30 laps.
Yeah, you could have.
Still been fully aware of what's going on. I
think
the one thing I enjoyed the most was the camera angle on Leclerc. So I found myself when that gyro, GoPro, whatever it is that they put on top, I was like, no, this is good. That was the most sort of glued I was to it, was when we were on board. And I thought, no, this is good to watch.
Yep.
Yeah, minimal. Ugh. Take me back to last weekend.
We're going to start, because we've been starting with hot topics.
Yep.
I'm going to wrap in an opening question, because I still want to keep an opening question going here and there. And this one comes from yours truly. I did get a couple of other ones, but I want to go with yours truly.
Didn't you do that last week?
With our hot topic, as part of our opening question, the hot topic's Dan Ricciardo.
Yep.
that needs to be spoken about. But let's start off with, what's your favourite Dan Ricciardo memory?
Oh, jeez.
In Formula One. I'll get us started while you do some thinking.
Okay, yeah.
For me, it was the China win.
Yep.
His win in China, there's a few there's a lot of moments. But the win in China was the one I remember the most. I think there was a bit of a tyre strategy moment, but he was by no means should be the fastest person on track.
Yep.
I think it was in 2018. And it was the lick the stamp and send it moment. And so he pulled off this unbelievable move on Bottas. He pulled off another great move on Hamilton. And it was one of those races where he was on the fastest tyres, but he had no right to win this race. And it was just ridiculously good, Dan Ricciardo. It was him at his best, where he had a car that he could trust, where he could send it down the inside. He knew when to pull it up, and it was him at his best. He managed to make everything come off and work, even though it was a bit of a different type of strategy. For me, that was one of my favourites. What about you?
Geez, I reckon it was just the first win in Canada, to be quite honest.
It was a great moment.
It was awesome.
I remember that one clearly.
It was great, and
Yep.
For me, that's sort of it.
The Monaco win was special as well.
Monaco win was special. I think it was more tense to watch that as a fan because it was on a knife edge, and
he was down on
power.
He was down on power
management. I think anywhere else he was run across the top of by the entire field. But
running the extra element of the fact that we had the year before, where the tyres weren't there, and so that added that extra element. So that was a really special one as well. But it was. I'm with you. Canada was good. I think was it a late pass on Perez or something like that? I think with Canada.
I think so, yeah.
2014 was Canada.
Yeah.
Hungary, so he had a nice win as well. He had a great win in... Where else did he have a win? Azerbaijan.
Yep.
He's had a win in Malaysia back in... Oh, geez, that was a little while ago.
That was a while ago now, wasn't it?
What else do we have? Where else did he have a win?
Well, he's had 9 of them.
9. Oh, he had the McLaren win.
Yep.
In Italy.
In Italy, yep.
Yep. Trying to think of where else he had a win.
Couldn't tell you off the
Hungary?
top of my head without looking on. Yeah, Hungary was a good win.
Canada, Malaysia. I feel like we're missing one. Belgium. No, that might be the 9.
I'm not sure.
But but anyway, it was an interesting post-race. Did you watch the post-race?
I did watch the post-race. It was one of just the worst post-races ever, to be quite honest. Like I mentioned at the start of the weekend, that it was the possibility that Lawson was coming in and this could suddenly be...
Well, at one stage it was going to be Dan was not even going to race in Singapore. Yeah. That was what was coming out originally.
Yes.
And then you sort of knew that was falling apart because they released media schedules with Dan on it, and they released the car livery with the number 3 on it. He's like, well, they're not going to do all this and then pull him out of it. So, so going into the weekend, yes, there is certainly. And by all means, like, it hasn't been announced yet either. It's not like there's been an official announcement that Dan has lost his seat. We're just going off the speculation.
Yeah.
But there was speculation. I think we'd sort of all come to terms to believe the speculation.
Yep.
And then there's the Dan interview with Sky Sports after the race. And that's sort of where you could really see that this is likely to happen, isn't it?
Yep. I feel like that there was a result that he needed to have this weekend that sort of could have swung it either way.
Yeah.
Just the general demeanour and body language and the way he sort of reflected on it, that he knew Singapore was one of the deadlines.
Yep.
And then the Q1 exit, and then just a non-existent race.
Yep.
The very unusual strategy calls, which we should come to sort of accept, because like Mecky's was part and parcel the reason why Ferrari's strategies in past were horrific. So why collecting him for your team is not going to result in the exact same thing? I don't know how that
such a strange calls throughout the weekend.
Yeah, I don't know how that came about, but he is a disaster show when it comes to strategy calls. And we've seen that with RB or VCARB this year as well. So I think maybe a slightly better result might have swung it in a different way, but I feel like we're still sort of talking in hypotheticals here, because he hasn't absolutely been dumped. The body language and everything suggested it. The rumours suggested. But then I've done a lot of reading over the last couple of days, and we haven't heard anything. We've got a 4-week delay. Don't get me started on that. I don't know where that came from. We've got a 4-week delay now to Austin. So we've got 4 weeks of sort of holding our breath here. There wasn't an official send-off. There's no official word from RB yet. The talk is that Lawson has 5 races in his contract, and that's what we sort of are alluding to now is probably correct. But it doesn't guarantee that Lawson has got his spot. It doesn't guarantee that, Audi isn't going to be there and available. And the talk is that he is going to remain in the Red Bull driver pool.
With the possibility of stepping in any seat at any time. That's the part that confuses me the most in terms of, I don't know, I can understand where they're coming from. We need to find out about Lawson. I understand that.
Yeah, the Horner interview at the start of the weekend really sort of sold it to me. It had alarm bells ringing.
Oh, but it's also, but it made sense to me. It made sense. We need to find out about Lawson before we get to next year. Yep. So they're by no means sold on Perez.
Yep.
There's no absolute that Verstappen's going to be around forever. And so they have to get a move on in finding out who their best drivers are. There's no trust in Yuki Tsunoda, which is absolutely fair enough. Yuki Tsunoda, while he's picked up points, has had a shit year.
Yep.
And I think his points have glossed over him not really being that much better than Ricciardo. In fact, he got up and going quicker when there were points to be had. Ricciardo missed that opportunity.
Yep.
2 of those races were down to Ricciardo. The rest were down to the team. Like the thing that gets lost in all these things is I reckon Ricciardo's probably had a handful of races where he hasn't driven well. I reckon he's had 2 races where he's driven really poorly.
Yep.
I reckon there's a handful of races that have been rubbish from the team.
Yep.
And I think he's probably driven better than driven poorly throughout the rest of the races.
But then outside of Max, they're all not setting the world on fire. And a lot of it comes all the way down to Red Bull's sort of decision in the first place, where we did the tyre test. Checo's not setting the world on fire. Nick De Vries is doing a poor job. So we've got Lawson there or we've got Dan here. Let's throw Dan in, do the tyre test. He was 2/10 off pole for Silverstone at the tyre test. I'm going right back to where this sort of all began.
Yep.
And so then we put him in. And we're like, all right, you're there. We know that Checo's not setting the world on fire here. Still isn't. And so then we leave him there. And sort of, for me, Dan's done everything that he's been asked to do. And it all comes down to Red Bull's inability to make a call on what Dan was put there for in the first place, is that the Perez isn't quite delivering in the number 1 team in a way that a number 2 driver in an absolute dominant car should be delivering, but the inability to make the call on what he was put there for in the first place has now turned Dan into what really seems collateral damage. Lawson's there because at the end of the month his contract is up and then he becomes a free agent. So suddenly Red Bull are panicking and going,
we need to find out if he's out or not.
We need to keep him because we're not quite sure who's coming through. Because at the moment, Red Bull's a one-man team and it's Max Verstappen. There's a likelihood that Max is going to walk away because now suddenly if Aston are going to knock on his door, Toto's made it absolutely no secret that he carries around 5 copies of a contract in case he wants to come to Mercedes. So you sort of get the gut feeling that Max isn't going to stay forever, and he's openly said that. He's like, I'm pretty comfortable with where I am. I'm not doing this forever. So then Perez as well. Perez brings a lot of money to the team. There's no doubt about that. His sponsors tip a huge amount in. His partner is about to have their 4th child as well. So there was rumours yesterday that maybe he's going to walk away from the sport full stop at the end of the year anyway and focus on family. But then where does that put Dan? Like, are you just going to hang on to him just in case?
There is that possibility, yeah. And what roller coaster does he go through? Answer this question.
Sure.
Of the Red Bull drivers, who has had the best season?
Max.
Max is clear.
It's only Max.
Of the Red Bull drivers... Who's had the worst season?
Well, you would probably say Perez has had the worst season.
There is no probably if or buts about it.
He was 10th on the weekend.
Perez has and on a track that was supposed to be his jam.
Yeah, when Perez down.
Perez has had a terrible season. Yep. Ricciardo's had I'd give it an okay season.
Well, since
in pretty crummy machinery.
Since the upgrade and the car chassis swap, he's out-qualified Yuki something like 7.5.
Yep.
He's out-raced him, I think it's 7.3 off the top of my head, and point score is equal.
And the issue is that Yuki's season looks so much better because he scored points when there was available, and he was doing beautifully.
He was doing really well.
The other thing, when Yuki talked about Ricciardo this weekend, his comments were around, I'm going to miss him. I've tried to learn a lot from him, but there's still a lot to learn.
Yep.
And it was around the fact that he can't give the feedback on the car that's required.
Yep.
He's too emotional. And a lot of Yuki's success is on the back of Ricciardo's work, which we've talked about all year.
Yep.
It's funny. Like I feel like we're trying to talk ourselves back into Ricciardo hanging around, which
so
I'm with you.
Many.
I'm with you, but I also need to go through that process. Of,
yeah,
I am okay with Ricciardo finishing up. It's fine now.
Yep.
But I just find it. I don't know that comment of we need to find out about the other drivers, and Ricciardo's not necessarily on the out. There's also talk of Ricciardo still coming into Red Bull this year. Potentially in the last race, possibly in the last couple of races.
But see, for me, this is Red Bull's inability to make the call.
They used to be so good at making the call.
Make the decision. Here is Checo's run of form since Miami. So we've had 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. You've had 13 looks at him since the podium in China for third place and the podium in Japan in second place, right? So Miami...
When the car was still
at an absolute peak, right? So then we go 4th, 8th, 2 retirements back-to-back, 8th, 7th, 17th, 7th, 7th, 6th, 8th, 17th, 10th. We're 8th in the title fight on 144 points. Just, you either want him or you don't want him. I really feel that a little bit of an unspoken sort of situation on this is the impact that Dietrich Mateschitz has had on keeping this team together.
Oh, yeah,
and
absolutely.
His passing has had a huge knock-on effect because when you've got the likes of Newey leaving, Jonathan Wheatley leaving, JP's been promoted, so doubtful that he will be Max's race engineer next year. After that, talks of Red Bull people dropping in resumes to all teams and they're being poached as well. The unsurety of what is going to be the Red Bull Ford engine and the additional pressure on that, the team is just, I don't know.
It's in a bad way, yeah.
Is it the place you want to be?
Perez being 8th in the championship just says it all, doesn't it? He's the worst of the top teams. And that's how he's performing, and he's by distance the worst.
Yep. Yeah. They need to make a decision. The junior programs aren't setting the world on fire. Without Max, what are you going to do? So I don't know.
What's your prediction for it all?
What's my prediction for it? Oh, I really don't know, to be quite honest. Like, you could just keep it safe and say Lawson is going to get the 5, and then I really couldn't predict what's going to happen after that, because it could either be the case of we're going to get rid of Lawson. I don't know. I'm still of the view if Lawson was good enough, they would have picked him first anyway over Dan. So then why didn't they?
My other question is, what on earth are they doing with Yuki?
Yuki's there on the Honda deal.
But what's the... And maybe that's the thing, they can't remove Yuki, but
that's it, yeah.
What's his purpose in that team? If we talk about purposes and you need to find out, for me, like, have you found out enough about Yuki? You've decided he isn't the best driver in the world.
Really matters because he's tied to that Honda deal. You're right. It is not a case of we want to move Yuki on, and we're not quite sure why he's there. He's there because contractually he comes with the Honda package.
Yeah,
they want a Japanese driver.
They did re-sign him for next year, but that Honda deal continues on for
one more year. So then it's whether or not the new powertrain is going to see the exit of Yuki as well. Like I said, if Lawson was good enough, why didn't we pick him in the first place over Dan?
Yeah.
Because the concern in the first place was Perez's performance. And I think Dan has done...
What do you want to see happen then?
What he's been
You don't know what's going to happen?
You know, I don't...
What do you want to see happen from him?
I kind of would like to see Dan throw in a lifeline and go to Audi. I don't know that after all of this now and the way that it's sort of played out... Reminds me a little bit of Gasly and Albon when there was that talk of the opportunity to go back and both of them turned their backs on Red Bull and said no thanks. Yep. As a driver...
Has Ricciardo got a long-term project like Audi in him?
I think he does.
He doesn't... He said on the weekend he's not entirely sure that the sport's for him if he's not contesting for wins anyway, and that's going to be the case at Audi for who knows how long. Even
you don't know.
even when Audi steps in, they're just nowhere near where they need to be.
If I am running Audi and I have got a brand new team, I've got a fabulous driver in Hülkenberg who is going to set us up on track. He's German, we're German, so the national sort of interest is going to be huge. If I want to sell my team and I want to sell my product and I want to get sponsors on board and I want to get people turning and arriving at my front door and knocking it down,
personality of the
I'm
sport.
going to get Dan.
Yeah.
Because suddenly I've got fans on track, I've got fans off track, I've got media in my front door, I've got sponsor in, and it's setting up my team beautifully. So that is a real win-win-win for Audi. You could
Is that where you want him? Do you want him there? Do you want him to retire? What do you want?
No, I kind of want him there, I think. I think he's still got a little bit more to give.
Yep.
I don't think this exit is the right exit. It's almost like an exit very similar in ways to Sargent's, where it's cut ties, thanks, see you later. And he certainly hasn't been performing on that level.
My prediction and my hope is that he has a couple of weeks off and he comes back as a Red Bull driver to replace Perez because they've seen enough of Perez. They want to see Ricciardo. The other thing is they did all that testing in a Red Bull car that behaved itself. Now, this Red Bull car isn't the Red Bull car that he drove in testing.
That's exactly
However, it's going to behave itself a whole lot nicer than what that RB is. Let's find out.
Well,
I don't understand. I don't understand the
business of
Perez
finding out. Then why aren't we still finding out?
Yeah, if Perez is just consistently third and fourth, I'd understand because he's up against the best drivers in the world. The car is at its absolute peak, but he's not even anywhere near that at the moment. He's 8th in the championship.
One of Horner's famous quotes is, "We're not interested in competing for 10th," and that was back in the Gasly days.
Yep.
And now suddenly we are 10th. Why are we okay with that now?
Let's move straight into the race from here.
All right.
We've spent 20 minutes on it.
That's okay, because not much happened in the race.
Well, the hot topic is sometimes how we're going to start our episodes.
Okay.
Let's talk Lando Norris.
All right.
What a resounding win. That was a win of Seb fashion. It was a win of Hamilton at his peak fashion.
Yep.
It was a win of Max Verstappen proportions, wasn't it?
Yep.
It was a really strong win. Are you convinced that there is a driver's title definitely on here?
No.
Still, we're probably the latest to come to this party, aren't we?
Yeah.
Why? I'm with you.
The points...
Sorry, it's on,
yeah,
but it's not... Like, everyone's talking like it is going to be, like, for sure, it's going to be incredibly close at the end.
There's still too many that can get in the way.
Yep.
There really is. Like, and, you know, like, look at the Ferraris. Qualified out of position. If Charles had a better qualifying in science, because they were on all weekend. Like, absolutely on.
Apart from qualifying. And then that just sort of held them back there too. But then suddenly Mercedes filled the void. Yep.
But went the opposite way and went backwards too. So there's still too many that can get in the way.
Yeah.
And I think because there are so many that can get in the way, even in the sprint, like, plenty of teams are happy to disrupt this party. And I think, with 2, 4, 6 to go, the points difference is 1 point less than what it was in Miami.
Yep.
So while the points tally is huge, the difference between Max and Lando has literally only come down a single point.
It hasn't come down.
It's come down a point.
All this domination, and it still hasn't come down. And I'm with you 100%. Well, and Lando is driving really, really nicely most of the time, but unfortunately most of the time isn't going to quite cut it.
That's right.
And I think one thing we've discovered about this McLaren is it doesn't like traffic.
Yeah.
The McLaren out front is a very different McLaren to in the traffic. We saw it with Lando last week.
We saw it with the Red Bull as well.
With Piastri this week.
All the time. Yep.
It isn't quite as... Well, it's nowhere near as strong when it's in traffic as when it's out in clear air.
Yep.
And I think qualifying has to be absolutely spot on. And as great as Norris is going at the moment, I just don't think he's quite got that final polish yet. I'm a true believer everyone has to go through a season of nearly there to become a better product. And Max Verstappen, we saw him get him in 21.
Yep.
He'd had a fair lead up to that, but he became a much stronger driver in 22.
Yep.
And I think that experience sort of helped him. So I think Lando's probably in that boat, but I mean, Is it possible? Absolutely, it's possible.
Yep.
If he wins and Verstappen comes second in every race, doesn't matter what happens with the
fastest lap,
it's still going to be a Verstappen's championship. So you're looking for something more.
And then I think
that's including with Norris being able to dominate everything. I think there's still probably a DNF in one of their races so far. Probably. A DNF in Max's, and then we're on.
Yep.
Another poor result from Lando. I think we're in big trouble.
I think I look at Vegas and Qatar as the two key weekends, because the Ferrari will be strong around Vegas, and I feel the Ferrari will be strong around Qatar as well. So that's why I say you throw Charles in there for 2 wins, which, do not discount Ferrari in this at all whatsoever, or Charles.
Yep.
Both of those there are prime setup for him.
Yep.
If he gets those 2 wins, if Oscar has one of his weekends, say at Sao Paulo, and he's out front and Norris has an absolute nightmare, we know that McLaren are not going to say, get out of the way for a race win.
And Mexico's not a straight deal.
Mexico's not a straightforward.
Throws up the differences. So,
that's right. I think the Red Bull might be okay in the high altitude.
It's an interesting watch. It's a really interesting watch, but it's just not on the way that everyone else is casting it to be on, in our opinion, I think. But that doesn't take anything away from that.
No.
Absolutely
great drive.
Brilliant drive.
What do you make of the wing?
Oh, yeah.
Wing fiasco.
I think they've dealt with it perfectly. McLaren, I think they've dealt with it perfectly.
I think they haven't. And I'm a little bit frustrated with it because they have been incredibly innovative with what they've brought in.
Yep.
It's all been passed by the FIA. It's all legal. Then suddenly to voluntarily cough it up and say, you know what, we'll do the right thing.
It was probably them, or it was going to happen anyway.
But then...
Do they need that wing?
I reckon there'll be a time where they might look at it.
Do they need that wing? They don't. See, for me, it's not a need.
I don't think it's a need.
They're winning anyway.
Yeah.
They were going to probably use it at Vegas.
Yep.
I doubt they're going to use it anywhere else. And so I think it's for the sake of, if it gets found to be illegal, then all of a sudden, maybe the points are coming away from them. Not that that ever happens. The FIA is too weak on that one.
It's been passed.
Yep.
We're at the absolute pinnacle of motorsport. Why are we coughing it up voluntarily? When you know it's legal, you've innovated brilliantly. It is clearly has supported your car performance in some way. But just because a couple of people have complained about it, what are you taking it off for? I don't know.
It was coming off. It was coming off anyway.
I don't know why it should have came.
But it was coming off until Vegas anyway.
Yeah,
it's one of those ones. I think they were just.
Is it a way of
minimising?
Don't look at anything else that we've got. Maybe we're going to do the right thing.
I think it was just minimising.
We're going to bank some points. I don't know. It annoyed me.
They got what they needed out of it,
because I tell you what, Red Bull wouldn't cough it up. And Mercedes wouldn't cough it up for nothing either.
No, I'm with you. No. And it's so funny how the shoe's on the other foot, and all of a sudden, this is ridiculous.
And then the word is now going, look at the front wing. I go back to Brazil a couple of years ago with Lewis and the inability to pass that test when the gurney flap broke.
Yep.
And then the measuring device fit through. Mercedes don't give things up for free, and neither do Red Bull. And I think that's something that I'd like to see McLaren over the next sort of period of just we talked about the ruthlessness of being a great team. Don't give it up. No. Think about the DAS as well that Mercedes did. They didn't voluntarily give that up.
Yep.
That stayed on for the season.
Yep.
And then it went. But
no,
I think I'd like to see them be a little bit stronger as well in that area. But it's all,
I think if it was something that was critical to their car for every race, I think they would have been stronger. I think it was pick your battles. Let's talk Piastri. Piastri's race started in 5th, I think, was it?
Was 5th, yep.
Started 5th and then finished in 3rd. Pretty decent.
Was good. Didn't have a great year last year around here either, so I feel like it could be a little bit of a... We're still learning this track, and it's maybe not a track that suits his strengths. His
qualifying was great until the last sector.
Yes,
it was all in one sector.
His Q2 time was good enough for second row on the grid, but then couldn't quite. That.
He was all over it, and then that last sector sort of did him in. Which I'm with you, it's still probably just that last bit of development or understanding to catch up with everybody else. Not that understanding ever stops, but around those tyres. But I thought it was a really solid race. I thought he drove a really decent race. I love the communication on the radio.
Yeah.
We're looking at plan B. Okay.
Yep.
We're looking at plan C. Okay. There's none of this back chat. There is trust in team and there's trust in driver. I just love the way he goes about.
Absolutely.
Just the no-nonsense attitude to it. In saying that, I love Lando's offset of that, where he is the person with emotion. He is the person that gives... You can see how he's feeling. Like in the cool-down room last week, you could see that he was absolutely bitterly disappointed. You could see this week he's trying not to be the man that celebrates too big the wins.
Yeah.
Because he knows there's bigger things to do.
Yeah.
But he can't hide that, Lando, and I love that about him. And I thought it was just a brilliant drive from him, and I thought Piastri's drive was nearly just as good.
He's doubled down on his comments that he doesn't want points and race wins handed to him as well. Did you hear that narrative?
I like that. And that's the thing, like a lot of the other element of it, and you're probably guilty of this, the media build-up of all that conversation was before everything else.
Yep.
And because you were getting really grumpy at the team around that, and Lando got pulled into that a little bit, and I don't think that was necessarily on Lando as such. Maybe Lando seen the writing on the wall and decided it's not worth that. Worth that as well. But yeah, so I think, but anyway, it was a good, solid race weekend from the team that's now well and truly the constructors' leaders, but also the team trying to pull their driver into that championship winning position. Verstappen's race was absolutely first class. It was.
I put it on the table in our predictions last week that he would win, and second is pretty close.
So you're wrong. Yeah.
No, it's pretty close.
Yeah. But no, I'm with you.
Awesome.
It was a stellar performance, and it was one of those. He hasn't got the car to win, but I tell you what, he's going to do everything he can.
Threw it over his shoulders and dragged it across the line. He was good. Yep. And I think
anyone else would have got caught by Piastri.
Oh, absolutely, they would have too.
By the time Piastri got his way through the other runners, Verstappen knew that he let that happen, and then he'll make his move in terms of pushing, and Piastri didn't catch him at all in the end. So
that's exactly right. Yep.
Yeah, it was a stellar drive. Perez, on the other hand, less stellar. 10th.
What else do you want to say about it?
This was supposed to be one of his strengths. I want to know what Red Bull are doing about that. We've talked enough about that situation. Russell 4th in the Mercedes. The Mercedes was showing so much earlier on, but I think we knew that these sorts of tracks weren't going to necessarily be their jam. I think we can expect them to sort of come back towards the field now.
Yep.
Come Austin, come a few of those other tracks, I think we can see them. I think probably in Brazil we might see them come alive depending on temperatures.
Yep.
Leclerc in the Ferrari.
I thought Charles fought through pretty well.
Yep.
Like, to be quite honest, they were both heavily out of position.
Yep.
And I think give it a little bit more time, and he probably nearly gets George. He's going to need a few more than 1 or 2 more laps. Like, you're probably going to need 5 more laps, to be honest.
Yep.
But he nearly got him too. So I thought it was a very nice save from him. In terms of race weekend and
in
points.
In terms of what they should have got, though,
absolutely.
It was pathetic, wasn't it? Like, that Ferrari should have been in that hunt for second, if not first.
It should have been, you're right. Practice, they were on fire.
And
they were all on fire.
Yep.
So I don't
Missed
know,
opportunity from Ferrari.
But, again, I think Charles is doing a lot better than people are giving him credit for.
I couldn't agree more. I think he's quietly, and I think he's one that's really benefited from going through the highs and lows. He feels like a lot more consistent character.
Yes, yep.
That brief championship battle he had with Verstappen in 22, I think he learned a lot from that. The team learned a lot from that. And I think he's now really benefiting from having a good, solid management structure in that Ferrari team.
Yeah, I think so too.
Hamilton's drive, I mean...
just missing in action for this weekend.
In general,
yeah,
it's sort of the case for one of these drivers each week.
Isn't it? Yep. There's one or the other, but they were, they're missing in action for me. Really nothing for me to write home about.
Yep, Sainz's big crash in qualifying sort of screwed him up.
Not as big as what it looked while I was watching it live, and then just sort of dropped it on entry with cold tyres, so...
But once again, cooked his chance.
Yeah.
Real rookie stuff, crash.
Looked on it. And, just a real sort of sideways
cold
drop,
tyres,
wasn't it?
playing with the steering wheel and lead into the corner, which I know they do. But, it's just one of those ones that it's just screwed their weekend up royally in the end. Alonso, probably a decent drive in 8th.
Very good drive in that tractor in 8th. And nearly 7th as well.
Yep.
Again, really close at the end. I think at another track, both him and Charles get that extra position up, and they finish sort of 4th 4th and 7th, but yeah, I think he's doing a good job again. Like, the noise up front is sort of masking how good a couple of these guys are doing at the moment, just in the back and lower end of that midfield.
The Hulk?
Hulk was fantastic. Put that quali lap in at the right time, and then just sort of... Like, we need to get used to this, don't we?
We do.
We just need to get used to this. This shouldn't be... We shouldn't be sitting here after so many rounds going, gee, that was a surprise. Actually, it's not a surprise. It's the standard now.
Colapinto.
Ah.
Wow.
I'm officially... And while we've only got 5 more rounds of him...
Which is the strangest thing in the world, isn't it?
I'm attaching myself to him. I said I was going to give it a couple more weeks, but I'm not now.
Missed a shot here by employing science.
I wondered about that too, but
we asked this question.
You'd have to say, I mean, hindsight's a wonderful thing.
You can't.
It really is. You
can't put Colapinto ahead of science.
No, you can't.
But I tell you what, he is
knocking on your door.
He has absolutely nailed it, hasn't he?
He's just...
Should he be next in line for that Audi drive?
Nah, probably not.
Why not?
I just think not quite ready.
I was going to say, there's a fit for drivers, isn't there?
Yeah, and there is.
Because this has worked, even though it's a Williams, and it hasn't been a Williams of amazing stature this year, the Williams he's come into has been a lot better, and it's been a decent Williams this second half of the season.
Yep.
And so I think that fit's worked nicely. That doesn't mean that fit's going to work nicely for him. So let's say he was in a Mercedes, or let's say he was going to go into the Audi. It's not necessarily guaranteed that we're going to see the same great results. No. It's fitting in nicely at the moment. But gosh, it is a shame we can't see more of this man.
And I think Williams will be smart. Like, if they want to keep him, or if they want to loan him. But then you've got to be prepared that science has been pretty open, saying that if I am offered somewhere else, I'm actually jumping ship here too. So
keep him around.
Just keep him. Just hang on to him.
Which is a hard job in Formula One.
Yep.
Luckily for them, there's not really many other options for them.
No, and I think that's probably the saving grace.
Should there be a certain Red Bull team that should be coming knocking for him?
No, I don't think so.
If they decide that Perez and Ricciardo aren't for them, Lawson... their F2 driver and F3 driver certainly aren't ready.
Mm-hmm.
You would have to wonder whether... Don't know. It's the sort of thing they would do, but yeah.
Not sure. I just think you've got to be cautious of grabbing people.
Oh, yeah.
When it's a little bit too premature.
Nick de Vries is the obvious example, isn't it?
I think so too.
Yep. Anyone else you want to talk about on that grid?
No.
Okay. 3, 2, and 1. Thanks to All Science 3, 2, and 1. Hey, it was the Brownlow Medal last night, which I think we explain this every year to our listeners. If you're not from Australia, which most of our listeners aren't from Australia, mind you.
Yeah, that's correct.
The Brownlow Medal is where it's the best and fairest, which is also a foreign idea to some places. So it's the best player. Think of your Ballon d'Or, your MVP for a season. But what happens is the umpires, they read out. They secretly write down votes, and then they all get read out in a night where everyone gets dressed up and goes and drinks too much. And it's a secret until the end of the night who is the best player of the AFL season. It's inspired me. I think we need to do, even though we've announced our winners each round, I think we need to do a Brownlow-style Driver of the Year episode where we read out a bit of a summary of that round.
Yep.
And then we read out how many total votes they get.
All right.
Because now that we've got listeners putting in their votes, I think it might be an interesting episode.
All right, that's fair.
We'll see how we go. It might be really uninteresting.
It
and then
might
we
be
won't
pretty
do it again.
uninteresting, especially if it's going to go on forever.
Well, yeah, so it'll be your job to give a summary of the round.
Oh, okay, yep. And then
I'll read the votes.
Reading the votes.
Yeah,
okay.
Or maybe we can share the summaries.
Maybe we could, yeah. We'll work it out.
Anyway, so that'll be one of our end-of-year activities. All right, let's go. Who's your 3 votes going to?
I'm giving 3 to Max this week.
Yeah, I thought you'd do something a bit different.
And I'm going to give 2 to Lando.
Yes,
and then I'm going to give 1 to Hulk.
1 to Hulk.
Yeah.
The Hulkenberry.
Yep.
Okay. It wasn't. Yeah. Okay. It's not as unusual as I was expecting. I'm going to go 3 to Lando. Now, I know we don't give 3 to the fastest car usually.
Yep.
However, I feel like it was just a dominant drive. When he was under a slight amount of pressure, not being able to step up to the plate the week before, I thought it was, and around Singapore, it's a hard job, so I'm going to give him the full points for to Lando.
Yeah.
I'm going to give 2 points to Piastri, because I don't believe it was the easiest thing to do to come through a few drivers. And I'm going to give 1 to Hulkenberg as well.
Cool.
Dud of the day.
Dud of the day.
We need a sponsor for Dud of the Day.
Wowie, we do need a sponsor for Dud of the Day, don't we?
If you're interested, you let us know.
Dud of the Day. A bit of like smattering this weekend.
Okay.
Honourable mentions go to whatever it was that Nico Rosberg was wearing. I'm looking at your camping chair in the studio at the moment, and it looks exactly like what Rosberg was wearing, some sort of pink silk pyjamas. So that was hideous. So I'm not a fan of that.
As in my daughter's camping chair.
That's,
right.
That's
I was looking at mine.
Exactly what I'm looking at there.
Colourblind, yep.
Yeah, no. So that gets a little bit of a honourable mention there too. Red Bull as a team. I don't know what you're doing at the moment. Like, I don't think they know what they're doing at the moment.
Yep.
And I think at the moment, if you are a little bit of a driver on the rise on the market, suddenly you're not looking at Red Bull anymore.
Oh,
it's not a place.
I think
it's
it
not
comes
a
up.
welcoming environment, is it?
I think it comes up in some of their comments
I
online.
feel like it's not a welcoming environment that you want to be a part of.
I think there was a little bit of yeah. I need to have a little look. But yeah, it's one of those things where you've got to create an environment that is going to be making bringing out the best in people, and I'm not sure that's happening.
Yeah, I don't think so either. So no, I think that's
Are they your dud?
No, they're not my dud. My dud is the FIA's.
I knew you were going to steal my dud.
It's the FIA's crackdown on inappropriate language and the lack of ability to recognise the role that they play and the broadcasters play in it. Because if you don't want to hear swearing on the radio and in and around the drivers, then don't broadcast it. Like, it's not live. Like, we don't watch press conferences live. We don't listen to team radio in the car live as it happens. It happens, it goes to the cutting floor, and then they make the decision as to whether or not they type it up, they edit it, they upload it to whatever platform they want to upload it, and then they let you watch it. So if you hear someone swear...
And they replay it over and over and over on the socials.
That's exactly right. And you don't want us to listen to it, and you think it's not great, then stop giving it to us to listen to. I don't know honestly.
I need to find this out, but I don't know the process of how the FIA president is selected. However, I don't understand how Siam is still the president of the FIA, because what he's currently doing is he's currently alienating everybody in their premier category that is making them the most money out of all the other categories. There's categories out there that are not making money for them. Yeah. Formula One is the category that is making them all their money. And while they've done some great things for racing in general, it's been driven by Formula One. And so I think too much credit goes to the FIA. Honestly, most of these things are driven by drivers getting fed up and demanding some differences. And Mr. Siam has not actually achieved any of those things, and he's currently alienating everybody in that sport. The drivers are now completely against him, and you could see it so clearly that they didn't want to talk to him after a race.
You could see that there's the awkwardness.
The body language, there was... and so they weren't happy with him in that aspect. Lewis has been off him for a long time. There is racial connotations around his comments, which I honestly don't know that there was a thought that he was trying to be racist, but don't be, like, you're in such a top-paying job, don't be so sloppy with your language, so it could possibly be thought that way.
He said something along the lines of, I used to race and I used to get upset, but I could just keep it in check. Well, you probably...
You did, but you weren't any good at it.
You weren't at the absolute pinnacle of motorsport, fighting for what is maybe the only opportunity you've ever had in your entire life to win this title. Like, He's gone outside of the Formula One management in terms of selecting teams, and he has embarrassed the FIA and the sport in that process, where it was seen to be that there was going to be an opportunity for a team to join. They've put that team through all sorts of hurdles,
and made them pay all sorts of money, and then all of a sudden, oh no, well, we don't actually have the ability to allow you to join, but we're going to recommend that you should.
Yeah.
Because that's what we want to see happen, and the FI and the F1 don't want to see that happen. The teams didn't want to see that happen. They're so unaligned on so much.
What about the community service? To do some sort of act that benefits the community. Like, what's Max going to do? What's he going to do? Is he going to go pick up rubbish in a local park? Is he going to go and sweep footpaths? Is he going to wash cars?
Which
is
the
he
FIA
feed homeless people, and then
the FIA have no control over any of those things.
What are you going to do? What are you going to do? You're going to stand by Max at security on the way out of Singapore and say, "Hang on, don't you go anywhere? You owe me an hour of community service." What are you going to do?
Yeah.
Like, what on earth are you going to do? I loved Lando's response. Hero of the hour, Lando. Lewis Hamilton, I wouldn't be doing it.
Ricciardo had a crack at him.
Absolutely. Yep. And so, it is a shocking call. And again, failure to look at broadcasters and what they put out. You don't want me to hear people swearing? Like I said,
crack down on the broadcast.
Don't cut it up. Yep. Don't type an editing box in the corner. Someone sits at a laptop and puts in 4 asterisks to make sure I'm not reading it. And then you pump it into my news feed or you pump it into my television so that I can watch it or whatever I'm watching it on. And then you tell me, oh, that's not good. You shouldn't be looking at that. Well, don't give it to me.
Great call.
Shocking.
Great call, Tristan. Well done. Sometimes I'll give you a bit of stick for your calls, but this one you've nailed. Well done. All right, F1.5.
F1.5.
The greatest championship.
The equal greatest championship.
What's the greatest championship?
The current F1.
Oh, okay.
All right. Colapinto's...
Well, that's true, actually. Yeah, the current one's probably closer to this one,
it is, but you'd be surprised how close it is. Colapinto's target is 65.
Oh, this is what we're watching. That's right.
To hit Sargent. So 65. He's had 3 goes at it. And his first 2 rounds were 15 and 18. So how close do you reckon he is so far?
15 and 18... Yep. What's that, 33? What are we adding?
He was halfway there.
Adding another 15, are we?
We're adding a lot this week, so we're getting
more than
close.
15.
We're adding a lot this week. All right.
Oh. Okay. What is he, 10 off?
Let's go the other way this week. I'm going to give you the first, second, and third.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Thank
I like
goodness.
to mix it up.
I'll take any... I don't care if it's up from down or down from up. Just don't put it randomly.
Excuse me. First, second, and third. And then you can work out how close everyone else is.
Yeah.
In random order. Alrighty? Sure. Hulkenberg with the win this week.
Yes.
25 points. So
already leading by
distance. All comers, still has been leading for a very long time and still hanging on. This was a really important round because of the last 5, he's had 6 across 2. So he's had a little bit of a dip, but he's back on it again. So 25 points for Hulk this week. He leads 285 in second place. Yuki has had a very, very important weekend too. His last 4 rounds read 6-6-1-2.
Right.
Apparently Dan's been sacked. 6-6-1-2. And then he's kicked up with 15 this weekend. So he's back up at 233.
In second
position. And in third is Dan, which, jeez. Is he going to be stranded now?
Probably.
Maybe. In third place across the top. And this is where we talk about. This is such a huge reflection on a driver's year.
If Dan comes back as a Red Bull driver, does he stay in the championship?
Well, I don't know. We'll work that out when we cross that bridge. And 4 points for Dan this week. Strategy was awful. I don't know what they were doing.
Yeah, actually, we didn't talk about enough about that.
It was just shocking. It was just, let's go soft and then medium when the entire field went hard.
Why? Like, first of all, I have some understanding for the soft. If you think you can get the soft far enough into the race, start on the soft.
But we had Lewis on the soft showing us that it wasn't possible.
Yeah, but he was also there. So I don't mind them giving that a go because their starts are terrible.
Yeah.
So start on the soft, that's fine. Only if you think you can get them into the race far enough to finish with a hard. And so they did that, and then they went to a medium. What the hell was that? What was that call?
I don't know. Apparently it was just aggressive. We were trying to be aggressive.
I sent you a message at the time and I was like, what are they doing?
I don't know what they're doing. Yeah, it was just shocking. So anyway, Dan is hanging around in third place on 204, but that could be where he lands himself. I don't know. Let's hope not. All right, and let's just go in random order from there. So they're your top 3. Hulk 285, Yuki 233 in second, and Dan 204 in third place. Magnussen picked up 2 this week. He's on 177. Colapinto, with the target of 65 in mind, picks up 18. He's on 51. Albon with 1. No apology requested this week, I see. 199 points.
You haven't apologised for the last 5 weeks.
I'm not going to wear that. So. DNF'd and just got 1 because there's 10 runners. So 199 for Alex Albon. Zhou picked up a nice bank of 10 points with 113. Ooh. Bottas picked up 8 on 105. Ocon, surprisingly, is thereabouts. Don't ask me how he's thereabouts still. With 12 points on 194. And Gasly picked up 6 on 186. So there are a few with, Alex 199, K-Mag 177, Ocon 194, and Gasly 186. And if Dan's going to be stranded on 204, Yuki's second place is not guaranteed either. So I don't know. I think it's still 6 to go. It's very much game on for, you would probably say, second and third. You'd be a brave man to bet against Hulk from this point on.
I agree.
Anyway, so that's F1.5.
Very nice. Excellent. Hulkenberg's obviously got it wrapped up.
I wouldn't say wrapped up.
I would, because you don't give no points to anybody.
No, but even just
so
six individual points.
It's not like he can have DNFs.
No, it's mathematically gettable from 4. So
Checo
is fully out of the title race. Mathematically impossible.
Out of
Formula 1 title race. Just in general. Did you see that?
Could have told you that.
I was just saying, he's out from there too. So.
All right.
Fantasy. Anyway, all right, fantasy.
Thanks to Dr. Auto Art. Go and check him out. Our man Chris from Dr. Auto Art. I see that he's got his collection of Ricciardo prints available for anyone wanting to go and get one. I
saw that. I think I do need to get one of those.
I think so.
Ones. I think, yeah. Anyway, thanks to Chris. Get around. It's Christmas time soon.
Is, yeah. You keep telling me that too.
How many weeks till Christmas? I don't know. I see on Instagram a lot of people mentioning Mariah Carey for Christmas. Just sort of feel like it's getting there. I don't like Christmas. I don't mention that last week.
You mentioned that most weeks. I don't like
Christmas. Yep. Anyway, get around Chris. Subscribe to his newsletters. Check out all his fabulous things. If you're in the market for a helmet, if you're a go-karter, if you are a race driver, if you're anything motorsport and you want to do something different with your lid, get in touch with Chris. He does some amazing work. Right. Round for this week. I made some changes.
Bad ones.
And shocking ones after I thought, FP1 and FP2 were looking good, and I thought, I'm actually going to bank in the Ferrari boys here because they're right. And then they decided to not turn up. I'd seen Dan was not doing a great job, and then I thought, well, I'll take him out and I'll pull Alex in, and that was a shocking call. So I made 3 of the worst moves possible, and because I made 3, also lost 10 points as well, because I needed to just grab...
You must have made... Don't you get 3, don't you?
You get 2.
Why does mine always say 3?
I don't know.
Is it? Do you carry one over around?
I don't know. You might, but I had 2 and I made 3. So I pulled the pin. I thought I can cover this with -10 because we're on here with Ferrari, and then they decided to not come to the party. So anyway, I needed to.
That's pathetic.
You're embarrassment. I worked out my money situation. I thought I need to get Ferrari now before they go up, and I can't afford them, and I'm stuck there. So anyway, I finished in a lowly 24th this week with 204 points, which is not great. Just sort of,
embarrassment to
putting
the pod.
that out there. I wouldn't say embarrassment at all whatsoever. So that's me. Where did you finish this week?
I think I was 15th.
I think you were 15th, something like that. You didn't do much better either. But I had the double for Lando on 35 points. Had Sainz in there for 18. He kind of saved face there. Hulk with 6. Alex Albon gave me -16, so dead to me. Colapinto doing nicely on 6 points, and McLaren for 81, and Ferrari 49. So it wasn't all doom and gloom, to be quite honest, but there was,
my annoyance, I had the exact same team as the winner for the round.
Yep.
The only difference was that the winner for the round did the no negatives.
And you did the negatives.
And I didn't do the no negatives, and so it was. I was like, hey, that looks like my team. Anyway, so I've got Norris, Colapinto, Piastri, Albon as well, and the Hulk, and then I've got McLaren and Ferrari. So
yes, seems to be the general way to go at the moment too. If you haven't got Colapinto, you need to get him in your team. I would be surprised if his percentage of owned is not 100%. I'm looking at it now; it's 13%.
Because there'll be a few people that aren't focusing.
He's already up 500,000, 6.3. Anyway, top 10 look like this for the round. Chloe Anderson leads all comers on 245. Jolyon Dyer, 237. David Rojas in third, 236. Dean Holt, 235. Faries, 234. In equal fifth place, with Abe Stander, Devon Schmidt and David Parson. In ninth place, equal, is Laws Van der Vees and Adam Hughes on 222, along with Royce Peters with 222, Roman Myrick on 222, and then Jason Carter rounding out all comers with 220 points. I'm flat that I took Dan out instead of Alex because Dan had 23.
Did he?
Which was the best of
23,
best round,
finishing in 18th.
Best round ever, because driver of the day nets you 10 points.
Oh, it does too.
He had fastest lap nets you 10 points.
Oh,
he had 5 overtakes, but he lost 2 positions. So just in the driver of the day and the fastest laps, there's 20 points that you could have scored there. So
wow,
I know, and he's gone up $1 million, but it doesn't matter because that might be it. Anyway, so that's where we're leaving off there. And if we go to our league, thanks to Chris, top 3 place getters taking home fantastic prize. Laws Van der Vees leads all comers on 4,182. Dean Holt in second, 4,092. Chloe Anderson, 4,061. Roman Myrick, 3,988 in fourth place. David Rojas, 3,967. Faries moves up a position into 6th with 3,924. Andy Tails drops back, 3,920 in 7th. Jolyon Dyer in 8th place, 3,898. Adam Hughes in 9th, 3,751. And I am hanging on in 10th place, not by much, 3,727.
Adam Hughes is overtaking you.
He's overtaken me last week and he's kicked on a bit. And then I was 11th yesterday.
Oh.
And the corrections on the points have put me back in front of Nicola Taylor. So I'm 3,727 and Nicola is 3,719. So I'm hanging on for dear life here. Just hanging on. I feel like Max in the championship. Like, I'm just kicking around in 10th. So anyway, that is fantasy for the round. You going to make any changes in the upcoming sort of...
No, probably not.
I'm thinking I might bite the bullet on Hulkenberg. And I might tag in someone like Bottas or Zhou. And then the knock-on effect of that is that I can then afford Piastri.
Ah, yes.
And so then I would have Lando, I would have Oscar, I would have McLaren, I would have Ferrari, and then I'd have Alex and Colapinto. And I think I can cover, like, the 6 points that Hulk's going to give me. I'm going to make more points on having Piastri to cover that anyway. So I think that's all right.
Mm.
So I think that's the general...
You're aiming for my team, is what you're aiming for.
Yeah, maybe. So I think that's just sort of the general way to go.
Yeah.
I might even just do that now, to be quite honest. So,
there you go.
Yeah.
News? Anything sparked your interest?
Well, I've got a 25, 14-hour and 55-minute break.
What's going on there?
Until Austin.
What's going on there?
I don't know, but...
It's annoying. Who okayed it?
Why did we not know about this either?
Well...
Like, were you not aware of this? Did you sneak up on you?
No, I knew there was a 3-week break in there. But yeah, I'm surprised by it. I'm okay with 2-week break, that's fine. But yeah, the 3 weekends off is where we've been done in. 2 weekends off would have been fine.
No weekends off. We've just had a month off.
Yeah, it's strange timing.
I don't need more time off. I've had a break. I don't need a break. It's like when you have a lunch break at work.
Yes.
And then your boss is like, go and have your afternoon break now too. You're like, well, no, I need that later. I don't want it now. So
when would you have liked this extra long break?
Not at all. At the season's end, that's when I'm having a break now. So we're off to America for a sprint in 25 days, and then we're going to Mexico, Brazil, Las Vegas, Qatar, and Abu Dhabi. I mean, it's nice that we go into December. Like 6th to 8th of December is where we finish it off. Christmas time. But I don't know. Can that come forward a couple of weeks? Can it come forward like no weeks? Can I just finish in November?
Can we just get on with
things? Can I just finish in November? Like, I'm all right
with
that?
I don't understand how it's happened or why it's happened necessarily. But
me neither. Anyway, so that's
okay.
that's the news around that.
Yep. I think it'll just be, in terms of predicting news, I think we'll get some understandings around Ricciardo in the next week, I would have thought. I'd be surprised if that prolongs too much longer.
Yep. Ticketing for Australian fans too. Some of the ballots have gone out as well. If you are,
so opens in October.
Yep. So
but yes,
sign up for the
get
ballot
up to the pre-race.
Being that we are going to be opening round and it's Lewis's first race for Ferrari,
and it's Jack Doohan's first race for Alpine.
Scrapping your nails for a ticket. So if you are a fan that has never been before, or you go all the time, or you're just someone that likes to leave it late, just get it now.
Yep.
Make the decision later.
Be Dan's first race back in Red Bull. Maybe. No. I think we'll probably see drivers meeting up with FIA for some sort of talk. I would say there'll be some sort of showdown. However, trying to lock down some drivers in this time is going to be a little bit tricky. But I think there'll be a bit of that. And then just watching team principals at the moment. I think Wolff and Horner are still at it. I think Wolff sort of said that Horner's just trying to stir some shit.
Yep. Saying that suddenly
Russell's going to be their next driver if needed. And
George Russell's not leaving Mercedes.
Well, you wouldn't think so, but unless Verstappen goes the opposite way. So, it's an interesting one, but I think we'll probably see a little bit of that happening. Interestingly, we did see Horner and Zach Brown make peace in pyjamas. So. But anyway, until then, we're gonna have a fan frenzy, and then there's gonna be a bit of time off.
Yeah,
which a bit boring. We'll see. We promise things, but we don't deliver, so I won't promise anything, and then we'll see. But enjoy a little bit of time off, folks, and listen out for fan frenzy. Goodbye now.